Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, beautiful. So thank you everyone for joining this session today. If I'm not audible or if I'm talking too fast, just let my colleague Jatin know by typing in the chat box. So that I adjust it accordingly, right? So just to give you a brief introduction, my name is Karan Rao. I lead the automated solutions team here at Rocketium. I was a consultant in my past life. What I do right now is work with enterprises, understand what are the creative challenges they have, and accordingly help them with some of our solutions, right? So before we get started, I sincerely hope you all are safe wherever you all are, and your loved ones are safe as well. At Rocketium, we are also trying our best to work from home, make sure that our employees are safe, and we're in high spirits, right? So what I wanted to do was just start this off on a slightly positive note, right? So just last week, Rocketium completed its fifth year anniversary. So we've been around for 5 years now. We had a virtual live evening session, had all our team members. We had some investors and employee and customers join as well, right? So some celebrations are overdue, but we were able to do this, right? So just wanted to start on that note, right? So um, getting into the session itself, right? So let's just wanted to start by setting some context here, right? So we're all in the midst of COVID-19. We're all seeing certain business impacts across the board, right? So some of the intuitive ones are we're all seeing some level of revenue hit. Costs are being optimized. We want to make sure that we're looking at every spend, we're questioning every spend. Companies are forced to freeze hiring, and some of them are also considering layoffs, right? So somewhere, these are intuitive, but what's interesting is the kind of impact it is having on the creative ecosystem today, right? So starting with creative, the creative team is thought of as a cost center. So somewhere, they're forced to ensure they're meeting their efficiency and cost reduction targets. There are reduction in external spends across technology and resources, which has meant that the internal team, the existing teams, are required to do more, give more output within the same amount of resources, right? And lastly, there are a lot of revenue experiments that are going on just to see how things are panning out and being able to adapt to this situation really quickly. And the creative teams are somewhere supporting these revenue experiments and are expecting faster, and the business teams are expecting faster turnaround, right? So somewhere this is the impact of COVID on our creative ecosystem, right? And when I mean ecosystem, it could be people who are making creatives, who are consuming, or for that matter, just enabling creative production, right? So in today's session, we're going to talk about how some of our customers have used automation to somewhere optimize their costs, right? Before that, I want to just spend a minute on introducing Rocketium. Some people on the call already know us, but for those who don't, Rocketium is a creative automation platform. So when we say creatives, we mean images, videos, gifs, right? And when we say automation, automation happens at different levels, right? So generally, we work with enterprises. We understand what their requirements are, and accordingly enable a workflow which suits their creative challenge, right? So in that manner, there are different ways in which our customers use us, and that's the way we're going to talk about the session today. The first way is how customers enable their internal teams to make creative production very efficient. How there are certain customers who are not only empowering internal teams but external partners as well, right? Using us as a medium to enable their external partners to make creatives, right? And Amazon is one such customer. We're going to talk about that use case in a little more detail a little later into the session, right? And lastly, how certain customers are removing the manual intervention completely and automating the creative process using our APIs or other automation products, right? So yeah, so in summary, we're going to talk about enabling internal teams, external partners, and automation using APIs. Again, we'll talk into more detail for each of these steps, right? So the first one is, how we enable internal teams. Right now, typically, if you think of any organization, right, they're typically set up in a way such that there is a central design team, and there are different business teams, be it the product team, marketing team, and other business teams, who are sending requests to the to the design team, right? And typically, what we've noticed is the design team gets a lot of redundant, non-creative and transactional work, right? Like make one banner into 18 sizes, right? Like, hey, new sale is coming up, just recreate these banners, but change one color, for example, right? So they're getting all these repetitive tasks. At the same time, they are the guardians of the brand compliance and the brand standards of the organization. So they have to check every creative that they make. They need to make sure that every creative that goes out is of high quality and meets standards, right? And lastly, because somewhere there is a communication between teams, there are longer turnaround times, right? There's a lot of back and forth, last minute changes. Hey, this didn't get updated like I wanted it to. And that's primarily because communication channels are not linear. They mostly look like this, right? Like wherein there are different teams talking to each other, and somewhere that just increases the amount of time and effort that is taken on pushing a creative out, right? So for these teams, what we do is we talk about the product, but somewhere we sit in the middle, right? And we enable design teams to remove redundant work with some level of automation. At the same time, we enable the business teams to do some sort of self-service so that they are not overly dependent on these design teams, right? So how do we do that? So there's a product that we have, which is called Campaign, right? So if you're seeing my screen, there is a GIF of these rolling templates, right? So this is how you land on the campaign page. There are multiple templates that you will see. Again, these templates can be created by internal design teams. We have support that creates these templates, right? And there is no constraint on creating these templates. They are 100% flexible. You can, like, this applies to both video and images. We are able to import templates from Photoshop files. We are able to push effects from After Effects into these templates and create highly complex ones that align with your brand guidelines, your brand standards. And then once a template is selected, you at that point select the different orientations, right? So you see there are 3 sizes available on this screen right now, but for example, there are certain customers who go into 11, 12, 15 sizes. Imagine making all the GDN sizes in one go, right? So once you've selected all the sizes, you come onto a screen like this, very simple drag and drop interface. If you see on the left hand side, you'll have all the content entry, including the images, including the caption. And on the right hand side, you see the preview real time for all the changes you're making, right? So somewhere we want to make sure that if a non-designer is using it, for them, this feels more like a content entry experience rather than a design experience. And that's how we are actually able to enable self-service at that level and remove that dependence from designers. But what we also do really well is the templates that we have some intelligence built into it, right? So just talking about a few examples here on how this self-service actually works. So for example, auto-fitting captions, right? Imagine your design team has created a really nice brand template with all the aesthetics in place. And now there is a marketer who's going and making these changes, right? I'd seen prior to this call, we have a few marketers and designers on this call as well, right? So imagine you're making these changes, you're adding more text, automatically the font adjusts so that there is no overlap. There is some level of integrity maintained for the aesthetics of the creative, right? So that way captions autofit, the user does not need to worry about resizing or styling, right? Similarly, there is intelligent layouting, which means that the creative is made up of different elements. If one of the elements goes away, how do the other elements react and automatically adjust so that, again, you don't need to go and make any changes or style the creative, right? Again, all of those things are possible, but to the extent a business user is using it, they would just want to add their content and move out, right? And finally, we have the auto adapts, right? So once you add content for one orientation, automatically being able to generate it even in like 15 orientation, absolutely possible, right? So you're literally being able to take one set of content and make multiple creatives from that without much intervention. So maybe within a minute you have these creatives live, right? And then finally, a feature that is really, really popular with a lot of our customers is the ability to actually upload a spreadsheet, right? So a lot of designers from different teams get a spreadsheet and then they are manually taking the spreadsheet information, putting it in a Photoshop file, right? Imagine if you have, let's say, 500 rows of information that can be seamlessly added to this particular tool and imported as a spreadsheet. And the creatives being made completely in an automated way, but they're also being created in the different orientations, right? So within a minute you have 500 rows of creatives being made into 3 orientations, right? So 1500 creatives in a minute. That's the kind of automation, or that's the kind of power this tool is able to give you, right? Now, just to walk you through some examples of how teams are using us. So for example, there are 50 plus designers in a large e-commerce company that use us again, right? As I mentioned earlier, every month they have some sale event. Every month they have to convert their 1,000 odd products into different types of banners based on the theme of that month, right? And they are able to use past banners, make a few changes, update a few spreadsheets, and probably within a day create these 1,000 odd banners, right? Performance marketing teams, they want to do A/B testing, they want to try different variants, they want to make sure that their ad dollars are getting the right return, right? So without having a lot of dependence on designers, keeping everything brand compliant, they are able to use this sort of an interface to make these variants, right? And an interesting use case is there's a global conglomerate that uses this interface to actually create recruitment banners. So they hire 10, 20,000 folks every year, and they want to enable their recruitment teams, again, not going to any kind of designers, but recruitment teams to be able to come onto this page and just create very nice looking banners that can be pushed on social channels for recruitment, right? So these are some of the examples. Now, coming to cost savings, when we talk about creative production, intuitively, using a solution like this definitely reduces your creative production cost, right? Because imagine, within a minute, if you're creating 100, 500 banners, just imagine the existing team, how much more they'll be able to pick up, right? But what we seldom ignore is just the amount of energy and time that is spent on the coordination effort and the rework that is required, right? So given that we are enabling self-service, a lot of that cost also goes down, right? And again, we can argue how, depending on baseline costs and depending on how you're using your resources, what the cost savings could be. But we've seen up to 75% of total reduction in this entire creative process by smartly using our tools in this entire workflow, right? So definitely something to think about. A lot of our customers are able to do this using the campaign platform, right? All right. Now moving to our second part of this discussion, which is empowering external partners, right? So what do external partners or external teams mean? So I'm going to try and explain this using the use case of Amazon, right? So Amazon has a bunch of advertisers. These advertisers make or want to make creatives and push it on Amazon's platform. Now, typically, Amazon's in-house design team has to make these creatives because, again, Amazon has its own standards and brand guidelines and needs to make sure that the output is brand compliant, right? So generally, the same issues come up that we discussed in our previous section. Because there's a lot of back and forth. The advertisers want to make sure their brand is protected, and Amazon wants to make sure that from their end everything looks okay, right? So again, we create a layer in the middle wherein the experience that you saw in the previous section is almost opened out to external teams so that they can take advantage of this simple creative interface and make these banners, which obviously is governed within the rules that Amazon allows, right? So the templates, the way the templates can be created, the way output can be created, what are the colors that can be used, all of those things are being controlled by the Amazon team, right? So this is the interface, right? You can almost recognize it from the previous gifs and images that I showed you, but the big difference here is it is branded as Amazon, right? Apart from that, there are a lot of configurations that are added here, which make sure that the entire experience is curated for an Amazon advertiser, right? So this may not apply to, let's say we are going to talk about a few different use cases, and you will see that in those use cases, let's say if we want to enable certain options, disable certain options, I don't want them to upload a logo, I don't want them to edit the font, all of those configurations are possible in this sort of a white label interface. So somewhere what you're trying to do is outsource the effort that your team is putting to the external vendors, advertisers, partners, and enable them to do this on a through a self-service route, right? If I talk about some examples, there is a car dealer in the US who's enabling, there is a car listing platform in the US where car dealers are coming onto our white label platform, creating listing ads, right? There is a PR distribution firm. It enables, using our white label platform, publishers to create PR video stories that are then pushed across their network, right? A very interesting use case is a lot of agencies are using our platform to almost create this as not only a cost saving, but a different value prop, a more economical value prop that they can use for their existing customers, right? So depending on whether these are the lower tier customers who can't afford their highly bespoke services, they would open this sort of curated experience out to them, so that at the end of the day they still maintain the stickiness with the client, and at a point where they can use the larger breadth of services, they can enable that, right? And the last is just a food delivery platform, right? Across the world, we have food delivery platform. Imagine being able enabling the restaurant partners, right, to create food banners, testimonial videos, all of that within the within your vendor section of the app, right? So again, we work with the food delivery platform here, where we open our video editor out for creating offer ads. Now, when it comes to thinking about cost savings for the white label product, right? Obviously, as you can imagine, taking the same product to external vendors will have similar cost savings from an efficiency perspective, right? But what it will also have is efficiencies from a build savings perspective. So what do I mean by build savings, right? Let's say you wanted to actually open this sort of service or open this sort of value offering to any of your partners or vendors, right? There will be a lot of upfront cost involving developers, designing, building, and finally maintaining the platform, right? At the same time, when you think about Rocketium's white label solution, it's a plug and play, right? In a couple of days, you can get this going. You can have it open to your vendor, to your partners, and enable self-service for them, right? All right. So the last section is about automating using APIs, right? So we already understand what a template is, right? Now, imagine that instead of in the first two discussions that the first two sections we covered, either the internal teams adding the data or external partners or vendors adding the data, right? Now, in this case, imagine you have a rich database of information. We are actually able, using our APIs, we are able to convert or pass all that information to templates and programmatically generate all these templates, right? So you want to create 1,000, 50,000, 100,000 videos or images. That is possible. That scale is achievable using our API platform, right? So again, in the interest of time, don't want to go into too many technicalities, but what you should take away is that if you have structured data, that structured data can be coupled up with our templates into different variants using this technology, right? So I'll explain this using some, talking about some use cases, right? So for example, there is a listing platform, a property or a real estate listing platform that uses this solution, right? So the way they use it is they have all the listing information in their database, and they call our APIs to generate 50, 100, 1,000 videos a day for all their property listings, right? When you think of high scale, you can actually imagine being able to personalize content for each at an individual level, right? So for example, a Japanese bank uses this technology to create personalized offers based on certain calculations and data they have at their end, and then send this out as banners in an email, right? So these are personalized offers. So a template is set up and different people get different information based on the logic they have at their end, right? Similarly, there is a Korean e-commerce company who uses this for abandoned cart gifs. So imagine you've purchased, or you were just about to purchase a product, you left it in your cart, and now you're getting a gif maybe a few minutes after saying that, hey Karan, you were going to purchase a pair of jeans, but you've not purchased it. Here's a discount coupon. Go and buy it now, right? So just to make sure that people give more attention to the offers, conversions are higher, right? So these are the examples where you need a very high scale, and manual effort would not be able to cater to these kind of use cases, right? Now, from a cost savings perspective, right? If you think about it, if you're opting for the manual creation route, right? Like as you scale the number of creatives, right? Ideally, the per video cost or the per image cost will keep rising, primarily because with more people comes more overheads, right? Just in terms of managing them, getting this licenses to the tools, the equipment, etc., right? Also, beyond a certain point, it just doesn't make sense, right? If you can't create 100,000 videos manually, right? And somewhere the economic model at that point breaks down. However, if you think about automation, obviously there is some setup, which means there is a threshold till which manual creation makes sense. But beyond that, the costs will actually per video cost keep going down, because the more the number of videos that you create or images that you create, the per creative cost keeps going down. So if you think about creating 1,000 banners a month, you could almost end up saving 65% of your costs when you compare it to creating the same banners manually, right? So coming to the session summary, we talked about three things. The first one is enabling internal teams, right? We have a product that ensures that redundant effort is reduced. At the same time, we enable self-service for certain business teams, make it easy for them. So the process itself is efficient. We spoke about empowering external partners. So how we can completely outsource the creative process to our partners in a very self-service manner, potentially also creating revenue streams with our existing customers, right? Lastly, completely removing the manual effort and creating these images or videos using our APIs and enabling use cases that could have been impossible without such kind of automation, right? So with that, I'd like to open this out to questions. My credentials are here. So if you have any suggestions, any thoughts, also if you want to talk about specifically about your industry and what we are doing with clients like yourself, we're working with real estate, a lot with e-commerce, even banking and the financial industry, right? So if you all have any thoughts or questions you all would like to bounce, please do reach out to me and I'll be happy to respond and even potentially schedule a one-on-one call to learn more. All right, guys, and thank you so much for your time. Jatin, we'll open it out to questions. Do we have any?
Yeah, sure, Karan. Yeah, guys, please feel free to pour in your questions. We might not be able to take all the questions right now because it's a short session, but we'll reach out to you with responses after the webinar over email. For now, Karan, I can see some questions around templates, like a couple of questions around templates. How flexible are templates? How do I create a custom template? If you could throw some light on that.
Sure. So somewhere template is a building block for any of the Rocketium products, right? And the creation of the template happens on one of our products. But understand that the template itself is 100% flexible, right? You could create image templates, you could create video templates. If you're creating a image template, we actually have a Photoshop plugin, which means that you could create, whatever you want on the canvas on Photoshop. Just click a button, and the template is enabled on Rocketium's interface, right? When it comes to video templates, again, we have a tool. The same tool can be used to make video templates. However, we also have the ability to import any kind of effects or any advanced graphics that you're making on hypothetically an After Effects, and then pull that into Rocketium's interface and almost construct a highly complex template that can be then used for any of these operations, right? So we also, as part of our engagement, we also give training to our clients in case they want to create the templates on their own. So some of our clients are proficient enough to do that. At the same time, we also have an internal design team that at times supports the client, at least in the beginning, as long as, so that they are up to speed on how to create templates on the Rocketium platform. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. So, Karan, we have one more question from Pallav. He asks that how much time does it take to create a custom account on this platform?
Custom. Okay. So what I'll do is I'll just, it depends on the product that you're using. So let's say the campaign product is, it's completely plug and play. So, the moment we understand your requirements, the next day we set it up for you and you can start using it, right? When it comes to APIs, again, once the template is created, we actually give you a data format in which to send it. So in a couple of days, again, that use case can be set up, right? The white label, again, from Rocketium's end, generally what I've seen is the integration is pretty quick because we'll understand your requirements and provide you all the information that you need to set up the white label solution, right? But typically I've seen that with clients, it takes a week or two just so that they are able to create a process around Rocketium, so that, what should users do before they come onto the white label platform. After the video or image is created, what should happen? So somewhere those things take time. If some of the infrastructure is set up already with an existing solution that they have, and this is a value-added offering, even better, it can be faster. So in summary, campaign really quick, API maybe a couple of days, white label it could be anywhere between 1 week to 3 weeks depending on our client's requirement and their creative workflow.
Yeah, thanks, Karan. So probably we can take one more question from Vidya. So just trying to understand what advantage would we have using Rocketium over Canva?
Okay, so so there are a couple of things here, right? So I think just in terms of, so if you think about Canva, it is a tool where you go online, you use the templates and the information available, and you make an output, right? The first way we are different is, first we try and understand what is the creative challenge you're trying to solve, and accordingly only put those modules or those features together so that you are able to use it in the best possible manner for your particular workflow. That's number one. Number two, just in terms of the efficiency of it, right? So even if you see in Canva today, if you're just changing the sizes, just let's take one example, right? Like you're changing the sizes of the canvas, you have to go and reposition all the elements, right? Like I showed you here, all of these things are done in real-time basis, right? Because the templates are set up, you're adding your content. Within a minute, you have all these creatives live in the different orientation without you having to do that redundant work. And I mean, lastly, just the game changer is like a spreadsheet upload, right? A lot of our customers use it. They really use this as a process within their teams to say that we'll collect information in a spreadsheet, then upload it in Rocketium, and then like our job is just to create a nice looking template, which is actually the designer's job to be creative rather than to be transactional. So I think those are the ways in which, there are many more ways, but I think those are the primary ways in which we are very different from Canva.
Yeah, thanks, Karan. So I think we'll have to pause here because we are running out of time. But I see a lot of questions from Mohit, Hugo, Richard, Panisha. We'll reach out to you guys over email, and we'll send your responses to the questions that you have sent. And probably then we could even set up a one-on-one conversation in case we need to dive deeper into details.
Yeah, Jatin, you can just like after the call, I'll just take all the questions. I'll definitely reach out to each one of y'all for sure.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. So I think, Karan, I think we can sort of close this with a thank you note. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll definitely stay connected and, reach out to you with all your queries.
Yeah, again, thank you all for joining. I really hope that things are well at your end, and stay safe. Thank you all. Bye-bye.